everyone. We're at the final stretch, the 3 p.m. session on track 6. We have the CISOs AI Power Play, securing the future of super AI and AGI from code to minds, with Dr. James Sayles. So please welcome him to the stage.
Thank you, guys. Again, appreciate your patience. So one of the things that comes to mind when I talk to clients about AI, everybody's talking AI. I don't care what conversation you're in. I don't care what situation you're in, who you're talking to. Everyone's talking AI. So today we're going to talk through kind of a use case. Right? CISOs, how many in here use CISOs? Yep, one. I mean, I want to be a CISO. Ooh, awesome. You want to be a CISO? Good. All right, so now the thing is, when we talk to customers or companies about AI and how to build the use cases for AI for the business, one of the things that comes to mind is that my CIO wants to be the AI strategist. My CTO wants to be the AI governance guy. And so we're going to talk today and kind of build the case around why the CISO should be in charge of AI governance, right, and model risk management. And so when we talk about these things, our customers are always saying, where's my, and especially if they grapple with the idea of when should I bring in a CISO or CAO, child, right? When that should be a child. So we're going to talk about that from that perspective today, but first I want to kind of give you an introduction of myself. So I've been around this business for 25 plus years. I've had roles such as CISO, I've had roles such as, Chief Risk Officer, GRC Fellow, GRC, Director, whatever you want to call it, right? And so back in 2010, I began kind of dabbling in the world of AI because my wife is an AI developer and has her own AI company. And so we would argue every night. She would say, no, my models are great. I'm like, no, your models are insecure. So one of us would go to bed mad, wake up the next morning, same story. And so I came about AI looking at it from a cyber perspective, looking at it from a security perspective, looking from a governance perspective. And so without reading the slides here, I've worked at Microsoft, I worked at Deloitte, I worked for the Big Four. I went to, did my time in Big Four, right? I worked for Buying Views. You see a couple of Buying View people out there, right? I've started a few businesses, I've sold a few businesses. And so been around the block a long time. Some of the customers that I've done a lot of AI work for is Prudential. I worked for IBM in the IBM Expert Labs, and I did a lot of the Watson capability stuff. Watson.ai, the Watson.gov, and the the Knowledge Center for Watson.gov and Watson.ai, along with Watson.data. So back in 2023, I said, you know what, there's no one talking about AI governance and model risk management, covering it from a security perspective. And so I said, I'm going to write a book. My wife said, you never wrote a book before. I said, well, I'm going to write it because I have so much knowledge up here, and I can show a lot of CISOs on why they should be in charge of AI from a governance perspective. And so the book that I wrote, obviously with my wife a little bit, was The Principles for AI Governance and Model Risk Management. So it covers everything from security, covers every persona from salespeople, marketing people back there, right? And so it covers everything in the book. It's 500 pages of manual reference material, use cases. So it's a great book. I'm not selling the book, but obviously this is what I do now. Now, the second book we're working on, I'm arguing with my publisher because she says, oh, your book hadn't been out long enough. And I say, if you're waiting on AI to stall because of my book, or you waiting on my book, I would never catch up. Because this book was all about Gen AI. It's all about, it never touches autonomous AI at all, right? But now we're in autonomous AI, we're in humanoids, right? And so my argument with them is if I wait another 2 years, I'll be behind the time. So why would I even write another book? So, but the next book should be coming out this year, and it's called the Mastering the Law of Autonomous Governance at the Speed of Thought, right? So get a chance, Google it, look for it. But again, this is me. So let's talk about this, right? So the executive imperative. I've worked with board members. I've worked with quite a bit of C-level managers. And they're thinking, okay, well, where am I? Where are we in this race, right? And so, but they fail to realize the risk associated with where we are in this race, okay? And so now, when we were back in narrow AI, Siri, those other things, right? You know, hey Google, right? That's all narrow AI. So we were fine. The risk was low because it was pretty much, see? Simple AI, listen to my conversation, right? And so they thought that when we in Gen AI, everything was kind of related to the phones, for example, related to the phones. And then we started, now my watch, damn it, everything's listening to me. So now we're on this curve, right? And so it's a curve going up, and our executives in the boardroom, they're talking, they're saying, okay, we gotta go AI, right? And so, this Gen AI thing, that's great, right? Let's do some RAG, let's do some embedding, let's use LangChain, let's do all of this stuff, right? Which is great, but that comes at a cost of risk. And so the higher you get up on this scale here, the higher the risk. And so when this is one of the reasons why organizations that do not have a risk framework should not be talking AI, because AI brings another level of risk that we can't control. We don't know what these models are going to do. We're still in the infancy stages, especially as we go to autonomous systems and full, super AI, right? Someone asked me the other day, I was speaking at an event in the Netherlands last year, and somebody asked me, said, well, when is super AI going to be out? I'm like, it's already out, right? So what are you talking about? But no one's thinking risk. And so we got to get the C-levels, and we got to get the boards of directors thinking, we can do this, but let's get beyond the hype cycle, right? There was a hype cycle that said, oh, everybody should go AI. We have not yet found out if we are going to be prosperous with AI. We can get our return on investment, our financials incentives. We're not there yet, because there was an article that came out last week that said 90% of the customers that are out there that have deployed AI have not yet seen the cost benefits. Why? Because they have not turnkeyed the whole process around AI. And so we want to help these CISOs and these C-levels and also board of directors kind of, there's a gap, right? Boards are saying, oh, I want AI. Guess what? I want AI, right? In the company we in today, I won't mention the name, but the company we in today, I want AI. But what about control? We don't need controls, right? And so the board members and the C-suite guys are saying, I'm going AI, but we can't keep up with them because there's no controls. So that, I actually say it in the book, that an AI strategy without governance is a failure. And that's guaranteed. Every one of those big clients that I've been on, they've been failed because they don't have the right level of governance in place. And so this is what board members are demanding, right? Again, the risk factors are here. I'm a risk guy, so every slide you're going to see is going to have a risk factor on it, right? But the board members are saying, listen, I want to grow my revenue. Let's grow revenues, right? Let's use AI, because the board members are talking to other board members, and they're going to Gartner, they go to Forrester, they go to all these different analysts, and they're saying, oh, AI is going to help you improve your revenue stream. You can monetize your systems. You can make a lot of money. You can save a lot of money. But again, they're saying more revenues, growth, right? Less costs, right? And it's not just necessarily layoffs. But unfortunately, we are creating in an environment today where layoffs are happening because of AI, right? So now what have we done? We have forgotten the ethical principles of AI, because that's not why we design AI. And so we did not design AI from the perspective of just cutting heads on jobs. That's not what it was for. But we've got put in that position right now. We want more margins, right? Because we want to monetize. This is what the board is saying. And so now they go to the C-levels and the CEOs and say, oh, here's our mandate. And they go running, yay, go. But as soon as guys like me come into the mix and say, where's your governance model? Oh, you're slowing down the business. No, it's a hell of a lot easier for me to take care of you from a governance perspective so that you don't get sued, and we're going to spend less money trying to get ourselves out of legal trouble because the model hallucinated and killed some patients somewhere down the line, right? So if you bring me in, I'm going to help you save money, which meets these goals here, right? And then the other thing is, okay, well, we want to reduce costs, and so our margins go up, right? So guess what happened? Every company that I've worked with, they said, okay, well, my margins are going to go up, and we're going to reduce costs. How do your margins go up? This is a question. How do you get your margins up when there's a cost factor involved in deploying AI? You got to get AI resources. You got to train people. You got to upskill them. That's cost. So it doesn't make sense to me financially that they're saying, okay, well, we're going to reduce costs. No, you have to come with expectation. Every organization I've worked with, again, they say, okay, this is the path. They go up, right? Because all of this AI cost, you got cloud stuff, you got, compute, all of that stuff, it goes up, right? And then it goes like this, and then it flatlines. That's the way it goes, right? We're not there yet. And AI is moving so fast that we cannot keep up with the things that we need to do in order to reach these targets. We can't keep up with that. So we got to get past that. You know what, by the way, this is a cool little, I use this thing a couple of, that's a cool little thing. Where you get that from? Okay, cool. Anyway, so now, I have to think about AI from a governance and risk perspective, a GRC perspective. You're not aligning your governance, risk, and compliance framework with your AI strategy, you're in trouble, people, right? So I'm getting to the point where I'm saying, why should the CISO lead it? Okay, all right. So now, this is the protective mindset. Kind of sort of why does the CTO have a protective mindset? He does not. He's thinking, how do I get products out the door so I can make money? How do I support the business? If the CIO does he have a protective mindset? No, he does not. I got to meet the demands of my business, right? The risk officer is beating on the door to the CISO and say, you know what, what's your controls, right? How do you mitigate the risk? And so you got to have a protective mindset when you go into AI strategy. If not, you're screwed, right? And trust me, I've got a suit on, but I've got some scars on my hand, right? That comes from the Prudentials, the Cities, and American Expresses that are trying to do this without governance. They're trying to do this without the security people in place, right? So why should the CISO lead? Let's see, I know I'm late, but I got a poll. Right? Who can answer why should not the CISO lead? Why should not? I'm looking for the opposers. Okay. Yes. Oh, no, hang on a second. Let me address that. So what happens when the model hallucinates and all of your data is on the street? Who are they going to come to? They're coming to the CISO, right? What happens when the model drifts and the data goes somewhere else? It's coming to the CISO. What happens when the attackers comes into the organization and steal critical data and hold it for ransomware? It's coming to who? The CISO. Let me just put it in our perspective. It's coming to James, it's coming to Abby, it's coming to Kieran, and we're all getting fired, right? So now, what's the reason? Okay, what's the other reason? What are your thoughts? Yeah, why you should? Yes. Correct. Anybody else? Mr. CISO? Okay, I got you. All right, so why should the CISO lead, right? He understands governance. He understands risk. And the CISO understands how to put all of these components in place so that he can cover AI strategy, right? I'm not saying he owns AI strategy. I think he owns AI governance, right? And so I personally fought that case this year at the company we work for, right? And it was a hard case because the CIO saying, okay, I want to own AI governance. Doesn't make sense because you're not in that mindset, okay? The other thing is, I got my company's name on it. Sorry. Slide. Okay, I work for Halliburton. I work for Halliburton. You got it? Okay, great. You got to see my badge as well. All right, so now, why does CISO should lead? Because he understands the attack surface. He understands it well, right? You can't go to a CTO and say, okay, talk to me about model injection. He's going to say, I don't know anything about that. Prime example. I don't know anything about that because the hyperscalers hadn't figured it out. Why can't we figure it out? Right? If we do nothing, right, about understanding our threat surfaces and our attack surfaces, AI has come to the place to where it has stretched our attack surface. And the bad thing about it is that we're doing nothing about it. I don't see companies talking about red teaming. I don't see on AI. I don't see companies talking about doing security code testing on AI. I don't see that. And that's something we got to get to, right? And so the CISO is going to understand this language. Now, I always say that every CISO, sir, I'm sorry if you're a CISO, if you don't have a voice in the boardroom, shame on you, right? Because every CISO should have a voice in the boardroom. If you're not talking to the board, you cannot support this, right? And so luckily, where we are, our CISO has a voice in the boardroom. And that's something that helps us out tremendously. Trust me, if I tell you it helps you, it will help you, right? So now, and I actually wrote an article a long time ago that say the CISO that does not have have a voice in the boardroom does not have a voice at all, right? Because you cannot articulate that message on why you should be doing stuff like this, or why you should be preventing and reducing your attack surface. Sorry, guys, I don't read slides, so if you want, I can give you a copy. We giving copies of the slides? Okay. Okay, all right, cool. If you need it, just, okay, good. All right, so the CISO, talking about the integration and why the CISO should actually lead it, right? So when you're looking at his past role, if you're a CISO, your role is or will be tremendously changing. It's going to tremendously change. Because as soon as the first attack comes out, and it's actually, and that attack is actually attributed to an AI model, guess what? Every CIO, every CISO, every CEO is going to be in trouble. Because now we have to start looking at this. So now the CISO role, your role has to change for you to get into this type of stuff. So, it's no more firewalls, right? Forget that stuff, right? Forget firewalls, right? That's not where we're going, right? Kieran, forget firewalls. Why? I mean, I can do micro data centers. Data center in a suitcase. I can do all that stuff. Forget firewalls. So any CISO that is talking at that level would never be able to understand and how to support the company's AI strategy. Never, right? Proven examples. All right, so now the CISO, he has to be the conductor, right? Risk, audit, right? Controls, these things. And so if he's not the conductor, then he's an ineffective CISO, so he cannot ascertain this role, right? So now, you look at it with he's going to own like someone said, he's going to own the AI risk ownership, right? Now, he's going to translate the risks, the taxonomies, the attack surfaces. He's going to translate all that into financial language. This is why you need to be sitting in the boardroom. Because you can't go to the board of directors and say, oh, I just prevented a micro-SQL injection attack, and we just had model pausing, and I just prevented that. They're going to say, what the hell are you talking about? Right? It doesn't work like that. So he has to translate that and be the conductor of all of these areas around AI, all of these different components. What AI model we use? What we use LangChain? Do we use LangSmith? Do we focus on Google AI? Do we focus on OpenAI? Right? These things has to be translated into a financial language, and he has to do that, right? And so, AGI, Super AI have different sets of risk involved. The CISO is going to have to be able to understand the different sets of risk that's out there, right? Because super AI is beyond human intelligence, or equivalent to human intelligence, because I don't think nobody can be smarter than me. That was a joke, by the way. I'm a horrible joke teller, but I am pretty smart. I graduated when I was 16, so I'm pretty smart. Pretty smart. So beyond human intelligence, except James is, right? So there's a different set of risk associated with that. So he has to break those risks down, articulate it, and then translate that into language for the board. Right? And so this is the model that we're using, is that James actually owns the AI governance committee. He owns it, right? But my CISO sits right next to me. And it works very well because now I have a voice in the boardroom that say, here's how we govern all of this crap, right? So this is the direction we're going. But the thing about it is, when the biggest risk that I'm afraid of is in these war-driven days, with everything that's going on in society, the biggest thing that I'm afraid of with AI is the weaponization, because that can destroy major infrastructure, right? You got these drones going around here, right? Surveying lands. I work for a company that did AI on drones, right? And so all of these things could be used for weaponization against our society. If we don't control it, we're in trouble, right? So now, the chow. How many, you guys, hands or show of hands, who has a chow in their department, in their company? You have a chow? Chow, no, chow. Can I ask you, sir, why do you have a chow? I call it a chow. I'm talking to you. Yeah, you got chow. Huh? Oh, you had a, I'm sorry. Well, okay, what was the last slide? That one.
Can you define trust collapse in that context?
Yes, when we talk about trustworthy AI, you know, okay, let me just give you let me give you the definition. Trust lapse is when we talk about when AI is so prevalent that we don't trust it at all. We're so skeptical of it because lots of companies are saying, you know, human out of the loop. Oh, we just going super AI, right? Human out of the loop, right? We don't trust it. Our auditors are not trusting it. Our risk people are not trusting it. We just don't trust it. And so there's a lot of people. I mean, how many times have you heard, oh man, AI is taking our jobs? They don't trust it, right? And so we have to create ethical, trustworthy AI systems, right? And so now, got a question for you. So there's a room full of people that do not have a child, right? And you guys don't have a child either? Okay, cool. All right. So as companies begin to grapple with, do I need a child or not, right? We don't even know where we are. We don't know if we want to go AI, AGI, Gen AI. We don't know what we want to do, right? And so companies really need that. Absolutely on this slide. Yeah. So companies really need that brain trust that can go into the boards and take these guys and talk them down from the hype cycle, right? And so the CAIO or the child will say, hang on a second, guys. You know, you got to zero according to knowledge here because we don't know anything about the models yet. We don't know anything about it, right? And so we can't go in there and say, oh, well, we're going to reap all these benefits. So we got to get them off the hype cycle, right? So the CISO, the child, this is obviously the collaboration that's needed that's going to help build this AI Governance Council. I'm not saying that my CISO needs to hold the full accountability for the AI Governance Council. As I stated, he's the conductor, right? So we have to get this thing in place. So the child builds the AI engine, and the CISO ensures that it doesn't explode in your organization, right? And so that's the kind of how we work with the chief AI. Well, we don't have one, but that's how we work with the child. Well, right now it's me. So that's how. So that's the plan. This is not a plan that I just made up for a presentation. This is practical use cases that we're doing today, right? So, and you guys seen in public news, you see Halliburton, right? You see what they're doing with autonomous drilling. We're doing some cool stuff, and I'll leave it at that, okay? All right, so the CISO is the natural leader. Somebody said he understands risk quantification. He understands that, right? And so the proven experience, he knows cloud, he knows OT, right? And so oversight, it's not optional. You can't do AI without oversight. You can't do AI without human in the middle, human in the loop, right? You can't do that. Oversight has also be problem. I mean, how much time I have? I'm speeding real fast. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, cool. So I have about 2 more slides. So now, red teaming. You got a red team. I guarantee you, if you're not red teaming, somebody else is, and you're not going to be happy with the output, right? So you might as well red team it. Don't be scared to red team models. Because guess what? Listen, you do not want to learn how to red team your AI systems from what happens when the attackers actually red team your systems, right? That's a bad way to learn about red teaming. Oh, we got to do lessons learned. No, man, you should have been doing that in the beginning. Really that simple, right? And if you don't know how to do red teaming, it's really simple to do. Find you a good security person, right? Okay, now, so this is what the council should look like, right? This is the structure of the council. Notice I always say it takes a village to raise AI. Can't be done in a vacuum. So it takes a village to raise AI. So you got to have a center of excellence, right? The CISO understands how to build this stuff and bring everybody into it, into the ecosystem. Bring them into the COE. It's important to have that COE. It's important to have that ecosystem. It's important to have the oversight. So, so who owns the oversight? Who chairs the board, right? The oversight committee. I think it belongs to legal. Me personally, what do you guys think? The oversight board belongs to legal. Do you guys have an oversight board? No? Yeah? It belongs to legal. Why? Because legal is going to protect us from what we don't know. We don't know anything about the models. Not yet. Right? You think Microsoft know everything about their models? OpenAI know everything? No. We're still in testing mode, but we're moving so freaking fast. We've got models coming out every 6 to 12 months, right? And people say, well, we're not at AGI. I thought I was falling off the stage when you looked at me like that. So we want to go super AI. You can't do that now, right? Because we don't know anything about it. And so we got to get this governance model in place and see what makes sense. We're not going to write AI just for the heck of writing AI, right? Because it's cool and fun. Let's go play. No, let's have some business value associated with it. Let's have a meaning for it. Let's have a purpose for it. What is it going to do? Are we going to improve our revenue stream so we can monetize our products and services? Are we going to reduce our bottom line expenses so that we can operate more efficiently? Do we need 35 people in audit? Probably not. But let's automate this stuff. Business processes and use cases need to be audited based on need, based on the fact that this is going to solve some business problems for us and allow us to be more efficient in our processes. That's the goal of AI, not to cut heads. And I always tell people, I was speaking at a college about 4 months ago, and there was a young lady, she was almost in tears. Well, why should I be going to college? I said, why shouldn't you be taking AI courses? Right? Because it makes sense. I saw AI coming, well, my wife has been doing it since forever, and I saw AI come into the business when I was working for State Street Bank and Goldman Sachs. They were doing AI before we were thinking about the Gen AI stuff. And so now, keep it governed, right? From the data science folks to the ML ops folks to the product people. And people, don't be so easy to be entertained by salespeople trying to get you to use their modeling, right? It's not good. I mean, it's not good. I get people calling me from LinkedIn. Hey, you know. I'm like, how do you know I'm even over there, right? So, but it's crazy. But here, okay, no, ooh, that's a beautiful slide, isn't it? So now, people say, how do we control and put a framework in place, right? It's called this, and I coined this. I coined it. So you can use it. I'm giving everybody permission to use it. It's called the AI Unified Governance Framework. Right? This is what it's all about. So you take, you say, what is my baseline framework? Oh, AI RMF. Why? Because it's a NIST product. It gives you the overall arching framework. Now, what else should I put in there? Well, we know half of the companies in America are doing business in the EU, right? And everybody's doing AI. And so now, if you want to look at those prescriptive measures, right, this AI RMF give you the framework for on risk. EU AI Act gives you more of the prescriptive things and how to tier and measure those models, right? And then finally, the ISO 40, I should have been in here, but ISO 42001, that's another one that belongs in the framework. So when you build these two frameworks, do it for what makes sense in your organization, right? And so this is the model that I use, and I have been using it now since 42001 came out and ARRMF came out. I did write some of the EU AI Act, and I'm also writing some of the Caribbean laws for AI as well. Right? So, all right, that's it. Thank you, guys. And again, I apologize. Any questions? Yes, sir. Right here. Go ahead.
So for organizations that are early on this journey or laggards, so to speak, what is your recommendation for getting the red teams trained up or the cybersecurity teams trained up and the governance teams trained up? Obviously, go read these things, but yeah. What are your suggestions on, from a CISO's perspective, how do I get my people ready for this?
Yeah, for the upskilling is important. So one of the things you do is, one of the things that I like to do personally is, like, for example, I go to like the hyperscalers, right? IBM, you got OpenAI, right? You got all these guys, and so they have these 30-day evals, right? That's how I started playing with this stuff. And that's how I got acclimated in more when I was at IBM. They have these evals, right? Now, they don't show you how to red team, but it shows you how to read the code. And then a good security person is going to understand the code and where to inject and where to do his AI, his red teaming, right? Now, governance people, it's all about reading, right? Risk people, it's about understanding risk and quantifying that risk. Because you as a CISO, you have to take that risk level in the boardroom. You say, hey, well, we're going to go AI, and it's going to solve all of our problems. How much is AI costing? $50 million. And then you say, well, how much are we going to reap on the back end from an ROI perspective? $10 million. And he's going to say, get the hell out of my office, right? And so we got to be able to quantify it, right? What's the ROI am I going to gain? What's the expenses I'm going to gain? So I think from the risk people need to look at it like that. Controls people need to understand these frameworks and build these controls based on what's in your environment, right? And so it takes a collaborative community to come together and say, listen, this is all the things we're doing. Now you take that security team, and most security guys, they know Python, right? And all of these models, 95% of them are written in Python or either R, right? And so you can inject it. I'm not a pen testing guy or a red testing guy, but I red test all my wife's models for practice. So obviously, practice to upskill. This is where we're going, right? And the other thing I can advise for your security people is get them to understand AI agents. Because security people, you're not left out of this either. I'm sorry, right? This is a mess. It really is a mess. And so all of these tools that are out there, ReliaQuest, automated agents, taking care of level 1, level 2 reporting from a SOC perspective. So it's important. So upskill, learning agent, sir. Hey, guys. Hey, Eric.
Been a fantastic presentation. Appreciate this. So for the companies that are the medium size and not the Halliburtons, right, who don't even have CISOs, right? Does that make sense? The smaller guys, how do they get started with your framework, and what's the start to this from a executive side? I mean, I know there's some companies here that don't have the CISO. They probably have a VP of IT.
Yep.
How do the small guys? What's the advice for the small? Again, it's not necessarily an IT thing; it's an organizational deal. But how do we convince them that, hey, you're showing a larger framework with a lot of people. There's a lot of S's behind each title.
Yeah.
Just kind of curious about what your thoughts are on a smaller world.
Yeah. Some of the
Small
smaller
guys want to
companies.
get there too.
Yeah. Some of the smaller companies out there. I say something like the community banks or the community oil and gas companies that are out there, small energy companies. You know, to keep up with the big boys out there, they are deploying AI agents, right? And identification and super AI, whatever the case may be, right? They're deploying that. And so the advice I would always give them is, if it's an IT guy, I would say, hey, if you don't have a CISO, you have any security. If your IT is in charge of security and IT, right? So he has to be able to be that conductor and also be that business enabler, right? And so he or she has to be able to orchestrate both of those, understand both sides of it so that they can present to the board the right intentions of AI. Now, they may not be able to speak board lingo, right? But I think they can articulate it enough to show business value if they work with their CFO, right? And when I talk to boards, you know, we're a small company, right? I'm fine with that. You can still benefit. But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So it has to be the strategic approach. The good thing about AI, it can scale with your business. Now, it's how you get your people upskilled and prepared to manage it, right? And that's where guys like me come in and do workshops and all of this. It's good. It's easy stuff, right? It's not that hard. Been doing it for long, right? All right. Any more questions? Right here.
Hi. Hopefully I can articulate this well. So I work for a very large company where we have both a profound IT as well as OT environment. And so there's a ton of enthusiasm on the IT side for third-party and internal AI development.
Yeah.
But our OT is non-centralized, and I'm trying to work on getting some of these frameworks and some of these policies to be able to consolidate all of the entire environment. So do you have any advice for me as I try to manage these executive committees and communication?
Yep. Are you using AI in your OT operations?
Yes, so we're doing machine vision.
So companies that are using AI, unfortunately, you know, you got 62443, you got 882 that's out there, but it does not cover AI. So now, my advice for these large companies that are doing this from an OT perspective, you got to be able to articulate what your requirements are, because if you guys operate like us, you got a ton of customers said you need to do all of these things. God, I hate Saudi Arabia's sovereignty laws. I hate them, right? But you have to comply because it's a license to operate, right? And so now, the question is, you know, how do you take the controls in your organization like 882 and 62443, excuse me, how do you take those and cross-reference those to these particular frameworks, right? The easiest way to do that is to use ChatGPT. But no, seriously, as a strategy, you got to be able to go in and say, listen, guys, here's how we're going to transpose these controls that we already have today. Here's what we know from an AI perspective, what these models are going to be served for, and then you manage those models that way, right? Now, the AI RMF does cover some of the OT stuff as well. And I think from an EU AI Act, as long as, if you're doing business in Europe or not, you still should be tiering your models. They should make sense, right? If I'm going to be, my agent's going to be moving PII or PHI, that's not a good thing, right? So you got to be able to tier and classify that. And so the higher the tier and the higher the classification of the system, the more controls you put around it, right? And so you think of it that way, right? OT perspective, I think we're now starting to get into some AI, right, with OT. Other than the fact that we're putting these cool models on these drill bits, it's on the web, so I didn't violate, right? And so they're doing all this autonomous drilling. So we work with customers all the time. And so that's why if you look at the framework that I had up here earlier, for us, that's what we're using. That's what we're using. The big thing is going to be governance and having that seat in the boardroom to see where the CTO is going with it, right? On the other side of IT, I would say if you're using agents over there or automation over there, ensure that there is a dividing line that you can actually control what's over here on the IT side, because these models can drift. What happens when your model drift over into the OT side and now your customer, are you in the drilling business? Money business? Mining? Oh yeah, all right. So what happens when you go, that model says, oh great, I'm gonna go drill in, I'm looking for some, and all of a sudden you hit this gas pipe. That's the problem. So we have to look at that. So I would say keep that dividing line over there. Let them use their models. Do not intertwine the models. Don't use 8 orchestration agents to take a model from IT and orchestrate its activities in the OT environment. That's bad business there. Okay? Thank you guys. I appreciate your support.